So hello guys again and welcome back to the channel. We'll have another batch of Battles War previews, which we're going to try to integrate or become part of a specific deck build for standard. And so we'll start today with a bunch of black and green, because our theme deck is of course the Golgari deck, which we'll show to you in a bit. So we start with Geeks Yugmoth Traitor. It was one of the earliest batch of card previews that was revealed, and given that he's become the Yugmoth Praetor, or Praetor of the almighty leader of the fractions Yugmoth, we have this version of this card that was finally revealed in this ability. As I remembered back in Ursa's saga, or maybe back in the invasion era, Geeks was mainly mentioned in some of the cards, including Ring of Dix, and we was quite curious as to what he would look like and what his ability is. So what we got here now is Geeks Yugmoth Praetor. It's a 3-2 cast, 1 black 3/3, wherein it is also legendary. Whenever a creature does combat damage to one of your opponents, its control may pay 1 life, and if they do, they draw a card. It also has this activated ability wherein you'll pay for 3 black, discard X cards, exile the top X cards of your target opponent's library, and you may play lands and cast spells from among those cards exiled this way without paying this mana cost. So basically that is a game-winning ability, given that you have also drawn that many cards, given that you have several creatures that will also attack at the cost of 1 life. They've drawn that many cards, and then you will get this activated ability for 7. But I think it would be a win more or maybe a game ender scenario per case. But still, it is a good 3-drop for 3/3, which is also a solid body, wherein it is not very prone now for much of the spot removals in the meta. Next up, we have Mystery's Shadow. This is the latest, one of the latest preview. This is now a version of a Shade, wherein this is not only 2-2 cost 2/2, but it has its ability that if a creature opponent controls would die, so instead. And then its activation ability, if you'll notice, it's only 1 generic mana. And that, like before, the tradition of being a Shade creature is that you would to pay black mana for its activation to pump it to get +1 until end turn. But this time they've gone ahead and made it into just 1 generic mana. So this will really fit well in our build, which I would consider now, since it is one of the latest. We'll have an updated version soon, in which we can use colorless mana from cards like Llanowar Waste to be able to pump this guy out for the extra damage and power. So next up, also have the reprint. This is the green creature back and send card. This is Obstinate Ballot, same art, same ability. So we just have a review. It is a 4-2 cast 4/4 beast. When it enters the battlefield, you will gain 4 life. Then if an ability or spell and opponent controls causes you to discard it, for example, Liliana of the Veils +1 ability, you'll have to put it for free in the battlefield instead of putting it in your graveyard. So this is a good anti-discard effect, that which most of the aggro decks would really need, given that we have a red-green, mono-green, or for our version today we have a black-green, which will really fit. But I will just add this in our sideboard because it's a solid 4-drop 4/4. It has again 4 life, which be very beneficial in a damage race against other aggro decks, and also a good anti-discard effect. So sideboard wise, this is mainly a good 3 copies to 4 copies in the list. Next, we also have Razor Lash Transmogant. This is one of the newest rebuild. It was rebuilt maybe yesterday or just hours ago. It is a 2-drop for 2 colorless or 2 generic mana. It is a 3/1 artifact creature zombie. It goes with a zombie Tribal of Soul. Its ability is that cannot block though, but its ability of recursion again. This recursion is you would to pay 4 generic and black to return it to battlefield with a personal counter on it. It becomes a 4/2 in the process, but this ability activation costs 4 less. So not only you would need to pay 4 if needed, but in the scenario that your opponents has 4 or more than basic lands, since we'll give in today our standard metagame has more of the 3 mana shard type of casting cost, or the syndicate types based from Capenna, will have mostly those cards that have 3 or more or 4 or more non-basic lands in their deck. So activation cost would really go wide with 4 less, and also have this come back at any time or at end of your opponent's turn to pay only black instead of the usual 6 mana cost. So this is a good 2-drop per se, or my considers again in the build, but we'll have another version of that as we'll present today in your initial list of our Golgari deck tech. Also, this card, I consider this because of the black-green mana cost. It is 4 to cost 3/3 Skyfisher Spider. It's a creature type spider with reach. When enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. It has an effect that can destroy any target non-land permanent. The good thing is that whenever it dies also, you will have another ability trigger that you may gain 1 life for each creature card in your graveyard, and you'll just have to do is to exile it from your graveyard. So only 1 effect. Whenever you'll have multiple recursion for Gravedigger style effect from your creature, this would not really possible with this card. But still, the ability to just enters the battlefield to destroy the battle permanent is really a good setup, given that you'll still have a 3/3 body with reach that can basically back out any flyers or any other creature with evasion that can trade with this in the late game. So on sideboard or main board, we'll see when the meta game comes in the post Brothers War setup. And last but not the least, we'll have another card preview, the green card Guess Gift. This is now the card I've considered over the Tamiyo's Safekeeping, but you'll say that Safekeeping is only 1 to cast. The given that this ability that has to give your creature reach, trample, hexproof, and discernible will not only protect them but also to push out enough damage because of that trample effect and that permanent +1/+1 counter on them. Tamiyo's effect, Safekeeping will only have them indestructible next group. You would gain 2 life, but since would on the aggro aspect, you would go with more on the attacking step. So, intuitively, you would need more +1/+1 power, like for this instance, +1/+1 counter on your creature control, and a bonus of trample. So, basically, you can have trampling effect if you ever do some combat tricks for them. For example, it would champ block your large creature, and then you will just cast Guess Gift to make them trample on this. So without further ado, we will now check on our deck list. We have another arcade deck update here. I call this build the deck tech Golgari Aggro Simplify, because I would not really rely on the black, although we could say that monocolor is more consistent in their cards, but we'll still now explore black-green since Land Rover Waste is now legal to play in Brothers War Standard. So we're now involved with the creatures. Creature choices with this. I've arranged this alphabetically again. You'll see some familiar components from their mono black mid-range decks. For example, we have Gold Sleeper for the 1-drop. So no further discussion on this. We'll just have to good mana sink early on. Becomes a 3/3, becomes a 4/4 with a counter and draw a card and lose 1 life. So I'll draw a card mana sink in the late game. So 4 copies of this was again added with Geeks, 2 copies, Grave Traitor, 3 copies of Graveyard Trespassers. Is a good anti-blue and also anti-Graveyard Shenanigans setup for this deck, and also a good flip card because a 4/4 with a ward that can basically protect itself with this setup. Now we also have, along with these 3 copies, we also have from green Llanowar Loam Speaker. This is just a good 2-drop in a sense that you can also ramp up your dudes into your 4-drops or your 5-drops early on because of this add mana any color, and then its ability that can make your extra lands becomes a 3/3 threat with haste, with also very relevant in most scenarios. And along with it, we also added the earlier revealed Phyrexian Flesh Gorger. It has a 2 to cast, 2 copies only, because we aim to go with the 7 to cast hardcast of this, as having to hardcast with a 7/5 Menace Lifelink with this ward ability would really very difficult for your opponents to deal with. But in cases that would need to curve out early, you can just cast the prototypes set. 3/3 Menace Lifelink would still be very relevant on most aggro curve scenario. So 2 copies of this. We also have 4 copies of the Beast Caller. As we've noticed, whenever you only cast a creature spell in this deck, you put counter on creature Beast Caller. So also a good 2-drop in this 2/2 becomes a 3/3 or 4/4 in the process. But the bonus that whenever it dies, you contribute your spell counters among any number of target creatures you control. So basically, you can just transfer those extra power to any lesser threat that can become a major threat, for example. So 4 copies on that to make sure that we can have a good curve with this card by turn 2 at the earliest. Next, we also have Heralded Apocalypse. No further introduction here. So 4 copies. So make sure that you can just pull off at least by turn 4 extra cards. Mostly they would be dealt with because most mid-range decks would really expect Heralded to be have in this build. So they would really try to answer it as early as they can. But the good thing is having multiple copies of this, if you draw multiple, would still benefit you because you would really find it hard to deal with this early on. And if you would be able to deal it with this, you will just cast another copy for them to become the problem again. So another of this, Tenacious Underdog, a good 2-drop, no further introduction, a good blitz in the late game. Can trade early on with 3 damage, very efficient also in attacking. And the last on the listener lineup is 2 copies of Workshop Archive. So this is now the Thragtusk, probably the 5-drop Thragtusk of our build. And if needed, you can just blitz it for its ability. Just pay 6 instead. You can be a hasty attacker for 5, but at the same time it becomes you gain 3 life when it enters the battlefield, and then when it dies, you will create a 4/4 Rhino, green Rhino warrior creature token. So topping up the curve is the 2 copies of this card. Now we go for our non-creature spells. So you can notice here we only have 8. We already added the new card Yes Gift along with spot removals with Cut Down. 2 copies, and Gas 2 copies, and our new Intuition from Dunmar United, 3 Asunder. We'll check the card again. This is just a 2 cast, not really an upgraded version of the Disenchant card where you can exile target artifact or enchantment. But the bonus is when you're able to kick it for 2 or 1 in black, you can exile target non-permanent instead. So basically, it would exile effect for 4 mana at an instant speed. So 2 copies in this in the main deck. Maybe we'll gonna add more in the sideboard if needed for against artifact-based and enchantment-based matchups. So again, last 2 copies of Guest Gift to protect our creatures and also to deal extra damage through trample and also have these random counters added on them. So 28 and 8, 36 non-land spells we would consider to have, but I think this will be the most efficient count. As I've noticed, most of the aggro decks now are going with 24 lands, as most of these extra lands can be used as utility cards, like for example, Takenuma, Channel Lands, Bosiju, and also Seatora's Proving Ground being cycled in the late game. So notice here we have new cards on our waist. This is probably the new art in copy here. You can just pay 1 colorless or add to black or green. It will just deal 1 damage to you. So 4 copies automatic along with Death at Glaive, to make sure that your curve with the black and green will not really affect. But we are leaning more with Swamp, as you'll notice we'll have more of the black mana cost creatures than the red. But I've tried to add a trick here with the Mishra's Foundry of only 1 copy. Again, this is just another of the manland source that might be useful in the setup to attack with a 2/2 assembly worker artifact creature if needed. That is for maybe for very dire situations where most of your creatures were answered by spot removals or mass removals. Now for the mana cost, as we wrap up this video, it's average of 2.64. Mostly are 2 and 3 drops, and still it is still a very good indicator for a good creature curve of an aggro deck. For our blacks producers, we have 23, and green we have 16. But our creature lineup or black is 77 and 15, so basically that's quite viable and reasonable for this creature and mana cost ratio, let's I can say, that can have into this. And last but not the least, we had only a lone Rhino Warrior token that we use in the deck. So this is now my proposal for this build. I might add this version with Mystery Shadow, 2 copies, sideboard card, Obstinate Paloth, and last but not the least are Razor Glass Transmogrant, maybe for a 2-drop here that might need to cut some of the Tenacious or maybe a Trespasser to add the 2 copies of the the Transmogrant to be able to lower again our curve and be able to have a creature that has a recursion ability for the late game action. So that is about it. This is another standard deck with Brothers War along with the card previews for your disposal and how we would use them in your standard meta game for your Magic Arena, Magic Online. So if you like this video, just click subscribe in the lower right scenario for notifications. To click the bell to again have more of this discussion further in the coming days and weeks as we go. We complete the Brothers War previews and also have them legal to play in Arena and MTGO. So thank you again for checking this video. I do hope you like and subscribe for more MTG content. Until the next time, and see ya.